So guys, in this tutorial, we are going to model and ring a robotic arm. And then we are going to attach it to the back of an animated character, which is downloaded from Mixema. The best part about this workflow is that even if you never tried rigging before, you could learn how to create your own imagine stop easily. So here we are in Blender version 3.0 and I will try my best to explain every single step of the way, and also sometimes I will explain why we are doing and what we are going to do. So let's dive into it. So we will start it by deleting everything that we had by default and creating a circle. And if you look carefully in the bottom left corner, you can see this little menu. Here you can lower the amount of vertex all the way down to 3. So now it's just a triangle instead, and we're going to duplicate this triangle on the y-axis. And let's take this duplicate version and rename it to Cloud Duplicator. And we're going to use this later. Now this triangle is going to be a segment in our robotic arm. Let's rename it, because this will make it a lot easier once we started duplicating this 50 times. So let's hide it for now. So let's go to edit mode by pressing tab, and let's right click, subdivide, set the number of chords to 2. Let's select these as pieces by holding down shift, and then you can press R to rotate them. And if you select everything and press F to fill it, it is a little bit easier to see what we are doing. So to make this edge a little bit smoother, let's go back to object mode and let's give this a subdivisional surface modifier by pressing Ctrl 2. This adds a subdivisional surface modifier with a level of 2. So now you can apply this by going to right click, convert to mesh. So now when let's go back to edit mode, you can see this there is a lot of more geometry here. Now we are going to select everything by pressing F, and then E will automatically extrude it on the Z axis. You can do it manually as well by pressing Z. So let's hold on Ctrl and set it to 1 meter exactly. Okay, so this is going to be our segment. So it's going to be exactly 1 meter tall, and this is important why I will explain it further in video. Let's start out by creating a shape that is 0.5 meter tall. So press Ctrl R to loop cut and scroll 2 times so you get these 3 loop cuts, and then left click and then right click. So now we have made this 3 loop cuts, and we want to delete everything except for this. So press Ctrl I to select inverted, and then X to delete and select vertex. So now we have this shape. We're going to select all these points, and you can do that by holding down Alt. So it will do a loop select, and then you can hold down Alt and Shift to do a loop select at the bottom as well. Now let's press E to extrude, S to scale, and then press Shift Z, and this will make it extrude inward all axes except Z axis. Now let's view this from the front again, and let's press E to extrude, S to scale, and then press Z. And then if you look at the top left corner, Now you can see that we hold down control and we can scale it exactly by 2, and this will take our height of 0.5 and multiplied by 2. So now we have our shape is exactly 1 meter. And the reason why we really want to make sure this is exactly 1 meter, that is because we are going to duplicate this 50 times. So any imperfection will be much more visible while we animate on it. So now that we have this shape, and if you want you can add some more details. So hold down Alt to select this loop. Press Ctrl B to bevel like this, and let's press E to extrude. Let's scale it up, and let's press Shift Z so it is not setting too tall. So now let's just make this little detail, and in edit mode you can box select this and scale it. You can set this to X-ray mode by pressing Alt Z, and in edit mode you can box select this and scale this up a little bit if you want. Now perfect. It looks cool, isn't it? When it is going to be a duplicate 50 times, let's view it from the front, and if you zoom far you will see that you get this grid pattern that is little bit brighter here, and this is basically 1 meter. So we are going to make it go all the way up here. So you can duplicate this by pressing Shift D, and if you hold down Control you can see that will snap this grid. So if you just move it one up on the Z axis and hold down Control all the time, it will be perfect 1 meter duplication on the Z axis. And what we just did, we just one action, and you can repeat that action by pressing Shift R. So which is will be more easier to make it duplicate this a number of times. You can see that we are making progress, and you can zoom out. So now we have 50 copies of the robotic arm segment. So to animate this segment into being an actual robotic arm that can move and bend and stuff like that, we're going to add some armature. So let's go. Shift A and let's create armature, but nothing happens because we can see it, because in here it is invisible bone. It is hidden. To make it more easier to see this bone, you can go to object data property, make sure the bone is selected, and go to viewport display and set it to in front. And now we will always see the bone no matter how many joints are in the way. So let's extrude the bone. So go to edit mode, and this top point will already be selected. So you can press G to move it. So if you press Shift C, you can see the entire robotic arm. Now let's view this from the front, and let's press G to move it and hold down Control once again. And since we started on 1 meter, we can move this 49 meters, and it is going to be precisely 50 meters. So now we want to make this bone into one bone for each segment. So that means we have to make this bone into 50 bones. So right click subdivide. Now we have to set the number of cards to 50 to get 50 bones. So now let's go back to object mode, and let's select all the segments by pressing A, and make sure the armature is highlighted like this. And now you can press Ctrl P to parent all the segment to the armature, and under armature deform we will set it to the width automatically weights. You can go into this new mode called pose mode, and each bone can now be rotated and the segment will follow. And you might be thinking, well, that's an awful slow way to animate a robotic arm, and you are absolutely right. To make it more workable, it should go like this. This is called inverse kinematics, and it is pretty easy to set up. So let's all the bone make sure they are pointing straight up. Let's go to pose, inverse kinematic, add IK to bone, and then select to new empty object. So what just happened is that Blender just figured out that all these bones are connected and it made an empty object at the top. So we can go back to object mode, we can select this empty object and we can press G and just move it around, and Blender just figure out where all these little objects should rotate to make it looks like it's one arm. But there's a big problem with this rig. If you try and notice, if you try to rotate and move a little far this empty object, nothing will happen. So select the armature and go to the new tab called bone constraint property called bone constraint properties, and here you can see the setting for the inverse kinematic constant, and you can enable rotation. So now you can select the empty object and you can press G to move, and you can press R to rotate. You can press R 2 times, so rotate in all directions. And here you have a really powerful rig, and the powerful about this rig is you can select the armature and you can press G and move this around as well. So now you essentially have 2 points where Blender will always figure out what is going to happen in between this, and this make it super easy for us to be a good animators. Okay friends, so here nothing going to happen with this rig only. We need a claw in one end, and in a other end we can place a human, then it will be completely stopped. To select everything and press, select everything and press H to hide, and in the outline repair let's click this little eye icon on the claw duplicator. So this object is going to be the base of our claw. So let's go to edit mode by pressing tab, and let's rotate it on the x-axis by -90 degree, and then you can press F to fill. Let's scale it down a little bit to extrude, E to extrude. Perfect. So there is your claw base, and if you like you can clear the location. That's going to make things a little bit easier. Okay, so now we are going to create the claw. So what we are going to do, is we are going to create a plane, and we are just going to edit mode, right click, merge vertices, at center. So now we have a infinitely small point in the 3D face. You can see I'm going to extrude this by pressing E on the y-axis, and if you like you can press 4 in keyboard to make it exactly 4 meters. And to add thickness to this, let's go to the modifier properties and skin modifier, and this will make a block, and we can open this menu here by pressing N to access the vertex data. And if you adjust this vertex data, you can see that the skin modifier is responding. So let's lower this like this, and let's take this other end and let's lower the Y radius, and you can actually select this and move it a little bit on the Y axis as well. Let's place it in the middle, there, there, middle there. That's good. Now let's enable X-ray by pressing Alt Z, and now you can see that we have these two vertices, but we want to make one more vertex in the middle, so we can bend it like this. Press A to select both of these vertices, right click, subdivide, and now we have this point in the middle in our scene. It is this button. You can see this button create armature, but right now it is disabled. That's because we have to go back to object mode, and now we can click create armature, and now we have a rigged flow. So let's go to pose. Let's go to pose mode and let's select one of these pieces, and you can press R and X to rotate on the X axis, and let's take this one as well. Perfect. Now let's select this first bone again. Let's move it off on the Z axis, and this is good. According to we can place everywhere, and now this is good. So let's go back to object mode. Let's select this plane, and in the modifier properties let's collapse the skin modifier and the armature modifier, and let's give it an array modifier. So this is going to give our claw more fingers. Let's set it to 3, and then we're going to disable the relative offsets, and we're going to go down to object offset and enable that. So now you can use this little eyedropper tool and select the claw duplicator, which is we're taking as a claw base, and that's it. Now you can select the claw duplicator, you can rotate it on the Y axis, and you can hold down control and do exactly 120 degree. Now these two fingers of this claw will copy the rotation of the main claw. So that makes this much easier to animate. So let's select the armature of the claw. Let's press Ctrl tab to go to pose mode, and now you can rotate this on the x-axis, and we have a rigged claw. So before we make the robotic arm visible again, let's just move this out of the way a little bit, and let's press Alt H. This will reveal all the hidden item, and we can select our claw. Press S to scale it a little bit if you need. Let's move it on the Z axis. Let's make sure it lines up with the robotic arm as good as you can, and perfect. So I think it is perfect. Since you have the entire claw selected, you can hold down Shift and select the IK target. Press Ctrl P and set parent to object. So now you can select the IK target, you can move it around, you can rotate it. We have fully rigged robotic arm with a claw. And now to animate the claw, instead of just pressing R and X, you are going to have to press R and XX. So you have to press X twice. That way it will rotate on the local axis instead. That is really cool. So now let's go ahead and find ourselves a human. And I like to use a website called Mixamo. We have already downloaded, so let's import that FBX model. Okay, let's just scale it up this top a little bit because it's going to place right here. So there's our little human in our scene, and if you press play, you can see you have a animated mock-up model in your skin. That's pretty cool. So to connect the armature to the human is actually surprisingly simple, and it's a really elegant solution. All you have. To do this, select the armature of the human, go to pose mode, and if you like, you can set it to X-ray. Now you can see all the bones, and you can just take one bone that makes sure that bone have a lot of animation data. And why? Because it will be more perfection and it will be more movement you can see in your arm, so in your robotic arm. So select armature of your robotic arm, and you hold down shift, and you select the entire armature for the human. Now press Ctrl P, and you can set the parent to just be the bone, and Blender will know what bone you have highlighted in pose mode. So now when you press play, you can see there is a little relationship line here. You can press play, and you can see that is rig has been connected, and this clock can still be animated in all different kinds of way, and it's a really cool rig. I like it, isn't it?
So friends, that was all about robotic arm. We have tried to explain each and every step in this workflow. I hope you have learned much more things from this video and you have enjoyed this video. So if you have any query, so you can leave a comment below. And nowadays we're consistently going to upload blender related tutorial videos, so make sure you're subscribing to our channel. See you in the next video. Till then, take care of you and your families. Bye bye.